Greetings, children. Miss K here. Vocab section of your notebook, and then can you add 7 rows? Shout out to the Seth that taught me that you can hit tab to add rows into the vocab section. Let's go ahead and get started. So, quick shout out here that our vocab today the definitions come sourced not from dear old Miss K, but instead from Portland Street Response. On Friday, we will have a guest speaker come and talk to us about the work that they do. So these definitions are going to be helpful to you in understanding what that work is. So let's go ahead and start with crisis, right? Key definition here, Portland Street Response responds to crisis. But crisis in a vague umbrella term is a situation that overwhelms a person and they feel unable to cope effectively. So there's lots of ways to navigate a mental health crisis. You might have experienced some of these struggles, potentially even in this year or in this pandemic. These lead up could be things like rapid mood swings, increased agitation, abusive behavior, isolation, losing touch with reality, or paranoia. Now, when crisis happens for Portland Street Response, one of the folks on their team is a mental health crisis responder. So that is a person who has educational training and experience de-escalating a situation, or a person de-escalating either a mental health crisis or de-escalating a situation with a person experiencing mental illness or substance use intoxication. So take a moment and write down the definitions for crisis and mental health responder now. All right, here's a new term for you, low acuity. So low acuity means non-emergency or low emergency. So like there is a police non-emergency line that you can call right now, and some of the calls that are diverted to Portland Street Response are calls that are non-emergency or low acuity. In addition, another term to know is Enhanced Crisis Intervention Training, or ECIT. So this is advanced training, around 80 hours in crisis and mental health intervention that's usually tailored for police officers. I know a number of you brought this up in your city council presentations when talking about the training that our officers need. So when we're talking about that, these officers might be a member of the behavioral health unit. I know that some groups cited this in their sources, but that means that these officers have undergone this ECIT training. Take a moment and write down low acuity and enhanced crisis intervention training and their definitions now. All right, welcome back. Now you may be more familiar with the acronym EMT than what it stands for, which is Emergency Medical Technician, but you certainly are familiar with what they look like, right? The folks that are popping out of the ambulance here to help you. Let's get a full definition for them though. If you are an EMT, you have a basic medical certification held by individuals who can provide basic medical care and assessment. So that means that they're doing things like first aid or stopping the bleeding or checking blood pressure, and they're also helping identify what is going on and then transporting the individual who is having a health crisis to a hospital or a doctor, and communicating what their read on the situation is. So EMTs have that certification, and they are kind of the passageway until a higher level of medical intervention can be administered by a doctor or a nurse. EMT is also one of the folks that is a part of Portland Street Response. Let's take a moment and write down the definition for EMT now. Welcome back. We have 2 more for you. And these are also similar to EMTs, like different types of roles that folks play in crisis intervention and response. One is a community health worker, CHW. So these are individuals who identify with the community that they serve in. They are a part of that community. Maybe they're a part of the disability rights and justice community. Maybe they're a part of the immigrant and refugee community or the queer community. And they have received training and certification to work within those populations. They are from that community, they already have those relations, and then they have additional training to be able to work doing crisis response with their culturally specific population. CHWs represent their community within the organization they work with, and they also help communicate organizational goals and services back out to their community. They're kind of like a liaison in that way. They often focus on community engagement and outreach and help individuals get connected to services within the community. So this is also referred to as case management and might look something that looks very different than like the role of an EMT, right? Or somebody who's coming in and doing crisis intervention. A lot of our community health workers are doing way more preventative based work. Not always, but often. Last but not least are our peer support specialists. So these are individuals who have lived experience with mental illness and or substance use addiction and are trained and certified to help others also struggling with the same. So these aren't experts that have studied addiction in school for a really long time. These are folks that have struggled and continue to struggle with addiction. There's a level of empathy there, right? PSSs don't treat individuals with mental illness or substance use, but they do help individuals navigate health systems, make appointments, get IDs, and advocate for the person to get appropriate care. So they're not necessarily doctors and they're not necessarily therapists, but what they are kind of advocates and liaisons, again, to help folks because they've been there before. Take a moment and write down our term and definition for community health workers, CHWs, and peer support specialists, PSS. You can write down the terms, but also the acronyms. All right, there's a lot there. A huge shout out again to Portland Street Response, and this will be helpful when they come and speak with us on Friday. Thanks so much. See you later. Bye.